Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Blades of Avernum. Last episode, we completed a fairly decent scenario that I actually kinda liked. Strange Gildrick, I believe it was called. Not too bad a scenario, nice mystery to it. Now we're moving on to another scenario called, I think it was Cradle, The Cradle, something like that. Wait, where is it? The Cradle. You've been sent to defend a fortress from increasing attacks by the local wildlife. The Mara Swamps are a remote area of the Empire. It's an overgrown wilderness packed with flora and fauna not found in other places. There's little more than a small town there, populated mostly by poor workers. This makes the presence of an Empire fortress somewhat perplexing. No one knows quite why Fort Salawind was built where it was. The official story is that it's there to protect travelers, but its location makes people wonder if that's the real reason. No matter the truth about Fort Salawind, it is your destination. You've been hired to help protect the fortress from native beasts and have been giving the soldiers there grief recently. You're to report to Colonel Jensen upon arrival. Perhaps during your stay you can learn the real reason why Fort Salawind exists. Marathon. Okay, well, we will begin with running around the outside as I do. Marathon is still a very poor town, which isn't surprising considering the recentness of its founding. Most people here live in small wooden shacks. These homes, for lack of a better phrase, would provide little shelter from the damp climate. Still, people sleep in them, likely dreaming of the time when the town flourishes and they can sleep in a real house. Alright, so we got small shacks over there. Alright, still exploring around as I do. Now around this way. Alright, that's all around the outside. These must be the wooden shacks. Random townswoman doesn't have anything to say. Ah, that's what they meant by the shacks. Okay. Alright, well, how about we start with the northwest corner? In a town as small as Marathon, it is very unusual to find a house as nice as this one, let alone someone who would be willing to build and live inside of it, yet here it is. The structure is sturdy and well enough built that it keeps the persistently wet atmosphere of the swamp at bay. The odor of dried and chopped herbs wafts towards you from a pair of tables and a large pot in one corner. The house is occupied by a woman in her early to mid-30s and a small ginger cat. The woman is trying to wipe up a puddle of greenish goop while the cat prowls around the house, likely looking for a meal other than goop. Rhubarb? Okay. The occupant of this home is a woman dressed in mage's robes. She has long brown hair, fair skin, and a few faint scars on her arms that point to her having experience with alchemy. She's running around the room, trying to clean up spots of green goop likely caused by an alchemical mishap. I'll be with you in a moment, she says as she cleans up with a fresh towel. It takes a moment for her to finish cleaning up. Slightly disheveled, she finally greets you. Hi there, I'm Lilia. Sorry about the mess. Rhubarb likes to seek attention at the most inopportune times. Rhubarb? She points to her cat. His name is Rhubarb. He's a mischievous little thing. Likes to jump up on the table when I'm working and knock over files. I've had more than one explosion caused by him. Sometimes I think he's more trouble than he's worth. That's exactly when he decides to behave. You look like an alchemist. Lilia looks surprised. You have a good eye. I picked up alchemy as a hobby a couple of years ago. I liked it and decided to pursue it as a career. What were you doing before? Now, that is a rather private matter. I hope you won't begrudge me for keeping a few secrets. Could you teach me about alchemy? The question seems to stun her. Well, I'm not the best alchemist in the world, I'll have you know. I haven't been doing this very long, but I could share what I know. Of course, the Empire keeps a tight rein on all forms of magic. I won't tell anyone if you won't. Alright, nothing we need to learn. If you want to learn anything more complicated, I suggest you find someone more experienced. Do you have any potions for sale? Well, I don't usually sell the potions I make, but I suppose I could part with some. I need some money to replace the material I use to make them, of course. Yeah, she's got energy potions. We've got a lot of coin, I guess. You never know. Could be needed. The collection is rather modest, isn't it? I don't make very many, as I don't use them that often. I keep a few around just in case, though. What kind of work do you do out here? Well, I do a number of things. For instance, I make potions for the people who get sick from working in the swamps. I get a modest pay from Mr. Lancaster for this. Also, I know quite a bit about plants. Mr. Lancaster will occasionally consult with me about the best places to look for what plants. I get considerably more money for this service. Besides that, I just try to hone my skills as best I can. You know a lot about nature? I guess you could put it that way. I used to spend a considerable amount of time in the wilderness. I picked up a few tricks, and I'm willing to share what I know. In fact, if you were willing to pay, I could teach you a number of things about nature and traveling in the wild. What do you say, interested? Sure, I'll pay for some knowledge. Potion making, nature lore, and Pathfinder. I feel like Pathfinder would be useful, so I'll buy 1 point for each of us. Especially if we're going to be in the swamps. Alright. That was quite a mess. Yeah, sorry about that. I was working on a batch of curing potions for some of the sick workers when Rhubarb decided he wanted more attention. She looks down at her cat, who is innocently licking his paws. Anyway, it's not the first time I've had to clean up a big mess, and it certainly won't be the last. This is a nice house, by the way. Yes, I realize it's much nicer than most around here. You see, when I decided to come out here, I just procured a sizable sum of money. I figured I could build a relatively nice house out here. There was no real reason for me not build a house that I could live and work in comfortably. Why'd you come out here? Well, I was starting to take an interest in alchemy, and I wanted to find a place I could practice. This swamp is a great place to find fresh herbs. Besides that, I had other reasons. Reasons I won't be sharing with you. Alright. Well, thank you for your time and your experience. Ooh. Wand of lightning. Yoink. Nobody saw anything. Alright. Let's see. First Marathon Chapel. A young woman is sitting here in the small chapel, hunched over and holding herself. She shivers slightly, and her face looks pale. When she notices you staring, she says, "It's not polite to stare at someone like that. I'm Marcia, by the way." You don't look very well. I'm not sick, if that's what you're wondering. I just don't like the climate here. It's either cold and wet or warm and wet, and in either case, the wet part just makes things worse. I moved here from a little town on the edge of the lake. It was so beautiful there, and the weather was temperate. I wish I could go back, but I have to finish my training before I leave. What do you do here? I was sent here by the order to study under Father Hammond. I'm in training to become a healer. Can't wait to be finished so I can leave this place. The last place I was at wasn't nearly as bad. I was studying basic rituals and defensive prayers at one of the order's schools. Have you done any healing? No, mostly what I've done is observe Father Hammond's work. He's a very good healer. Of course, I could do just as well if he would let me try. Unfortunately, he has expressly forbidden me from doing any such thing until he feels I'm ready. Could you teach me some of those rituals? The look of misery leaves her face and is quickly replaced by a look of shock. Me? Teach you? I have to say I'm flattered. I've never really taught anyone before, but I could try. Please, teach me. She knows quite a few spells. Definitely Blessing. Terror, no. Summon Shade, no. Enduring Barrier, no. And that's it. Okay. I hope that was alright. I've never really done something like this before. Tell me about Marathon. It's a cold, damp, miserable, depressing place. I wouldn't be here if I had a choice. I don't think anyone else would either if it weren't for the wealth of herbs that grow here. And the only reason this place exists. Okay. Excuse me. This small chapel is watched over by an aging priest. His hair is beginning to gray in patches, and he walks with a very slight limp. When he notices you, he says, "Hello. You look like an adventurer.
My name is Father August Hammond. What can I do for you?
What are your duties here?
Well, a number of things. First off, I provide spiritual advice to anyone willing to listen. I've spoken to many of the workers here in town. They tell me that speaking with me gives them strength. Hearing that is a great blessing. Also, I help the wounded and sick with the healing arts I learned from my mentor. Along with the mage Lilia, I have helped keep many of the workers alive. It's surprising how many diseases one can catch working in such a place. And lastly, I watch over the graveyard that was established by my order. It lies to the southeast of here.
Could you heal me?
Well, if you require healing, I would be happy to oblige. However, I will have to ask for a donation. Let's say 500 gold, 50 gold. We do need funds to maintain this chapel, after all.
Don't need it. Do you know anything about Fort Salawind? Father Hammond smiles.
I've spent some time there. I met a man from there named Jeff Balmer. He was a researcher. He wouldn't tell me what he was researching, but I have a few ideas what it is.
What do you think they're researching?
I'm sure you're quite curious as to what they're doing. I have a few ideas, but they're just conjecture. There's no point in me sharing them.
By the way, why is there a graveyard out here?
My order believes that for the dead to have true peace, their bodies must be buried in a peaceful place. We found such a place out here when the town was founded. Now the grounds are almost full. I've been assigned as a guardian to the graveyard. I'm to keep it undisturbed and peaceful. I'm the only one who can open the gate to the grounds.
Good to know. And what is this? Lancaster Herb's main office. This small office is occupied mostly by paper and quills, but also by a squat, pot-bellied man with a booming baritone voice. He's wandering around the stacks of paper shouting to himself. At last he comes to the realization that he is no longer alone in his office. He smiles and says,
Well, hello there. My name is Guy Lancaster, owner and operator of Lancaster Herbs. What can I do for you?
"What is Lancaster Herbs?"
Why, it's the reason Marathon exists in the first place. I started my company out here in this swamp because I realized the value of herbs growing here. I had most of the buildings built and brought workers down here. I built my company from the ground up, and now business is booming. We ship dried herbs to many of the noted alchemists of the world. Our product is recognized by them to be superior in quality to any other. That, my friend, is Lancaster Herbs.
"What do you know about the swamp?"
I know it's a gold mine of herbs. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be here. Besides that, I don't know much. I'm not a biologist or an alchemist, I'm just a businessman.
"Have you had any trouble with beasts?"
Oh, there have been a few reports from the soldiers over in Fort Salawind about the beasts being rabid creatures, but we haven't had any trouble with them at all. They stay out of the town and are friendly enough when picking parties run into them. I really don't see what the fuss is about. If anything, those beasts are beneficial. They love to hang around places where there are lots of herbs. My pickers just follow them around until they find a batch.
"Thank you for the tip. Will you sell some herbs to me?" The question launches him into a fit of laughter.
Oh, I like you. You go right to the source for the freshest herbs. Wait here, I'll be back with some of my product, and I'll give you a great price.
Healing, spiritual, energetic, and gray mold. Think we're good?
Well, if that's all, I really need to get back to work.
And that's all. Okay. Fascinating. Of course, a businessman would sell herbs. Can't get that. Alright. Not here. And here we have all the hut houses. For a second, those handles look darker. Just a townsman. And just a townswoman. Alright, what have we got here? Just townspeople there. This room is filled with light and heat radiating from 4 braziers. There are herbs laying on the stone countertops. The heat is slowly drying them. Once the herbs are finished drying, they will be packaged and shipped off to needy alchemists elsewhere in the world. Ah, so this is a drying shed. Makes sense. And this is a storage shed. With, well, actually, someone might need gloves. No, nobody needs gloves. We're fine. Boots too. Nobody needs boots. Okay, nothing in there. And one building left here. Rosie's Tavern and Inn. Refreshed with food, drink, and a warm, dry bed. Ah, the tavern. Let's see here. This thin, red-headed woman is wiping down counters and moving plates and mugs from them to a large vessel filled with soapy water. When she sees you, she puts down her rag and says, "I'm Rosie, and this is my inn. What can I do for you?" "What services do you offer?" "We have a vacant room for 5 coins if you want. It's much better than sleeping outside, believe me. Also, we have some good vegetable stew for 2 coins and beer for 1. "Ah, what the hell. It's cheap. I'll take some stew." She pours out a strange reddish-green soup with an almost sulphurous smell. You tentatively take a sip. It's oddly salty and tastes like it has some form of cabbage in it, along with a number of other strong-tasting vegetables. It's very satisfying. Okay. "I suppose you just want to make small talk, then. Well, you came to the right place if you want to know something about what goes on around here. I know it all." "What can you tell me about Marathon?" "Oh, this town was founded by a guy named Guy Lancaster. You can find him in his office by the herb processing buildings. He built most of the town when he decided to take his business out here. He's a bit of an entrepreneur. When his survey team found that this swamp was filled with alchemical herbs, he came to oversee the formation of this little endeavor. There aren't many people here now. Of course, the reports of beast attacks don't help our population growth. There are a few people you should talk to, though. Of course, you should talk to Guy, but there's also a sage named Lilia, and the 2 that run the small chapel. Father Hammond and Marcia, I think their names are." "What can you tell me about Guy?" "Not much more to tell than I've already told you. He mostly keeps to himself. He's a fair man, but also a businessman. He pushes his employees to perform their best, but he doesn't make unreasonable demands." "What can you tell me about Lilia?" "Now there is an odd case. She's a sage practicing alchemy who moved here about 14 months ago, not long before Fort Salowin began construction. She says she came out here for the herbs and the quiet. Personally, she always strikes me as someone with something to hide. I've never been able to get her to tell me where she was or what she was doing before she came here. No one else knows either." "What can you tell me about Father Hammond?" "Well, Father Hammond came out here when that graveyard just south of here was built. Don't ask me why someone built that huge graveyard out here. I mean, sure, we have a few of our own buried in there, but most of the graves are for people from far off. Anyway, Father Hammond seems like he's on the straight and narrow. Rather boring, if you ask me. Though I did once hear he had been inside Fort Salowin. Wonder what kind of connection he has with that place." "What can you tell me about Marcia?" "She's a young one who was sent here by her order for one reason or another. You'd best ask her about that. Poor thing doesn't like being here. I think the climate is making her sick." What can you tell me about the swamp?" "For the most part, it's free from civilization. The only other place here I would consider safe besides Marathon would be Fort Salowin. There's a graveyard, but you can't get in without Father Hammond's permission." "Do you know anything about Fort Salowin?" "All I know is that it's a little ways to the west and then to the south. Just follow the road. Nobody gets inside unless they're invited. I hear rumors that they're guarding some kind of dangerous artifact. All I've heard is whispers, though." Very curious indeed. And that's everything else there. Alright, so south and west, or west and south is the direction we'd have to go. Well, we'll investigate all over the place. Alright, let's begin our explorations. Down here would be, before you stands a set of massive wooden gates held fast by a large, complicated lock. You doubt the lock can be picked in any way, and there's no way you're going to break down the door. Intruders are most definitely not welcome here. Well, this is a graveyard. Mara Graveyard, no trespassing. I wonder why they have the graveyard blocked off like this. Doesn't make much sense. Not to me, anyway. You've managed to find a small patch of alchemical herbs growing in the swamp. You decide to harvest some. And we found another small patch. I'm guessing it's these little bushes here that are going to be the small patches of herbs that we'll help out. I also see... there's a group of workers hunting for herbs out here in the swamp. They greet you as they pass, but don't say anything interesting. I suppose that's fair. I just feel like the Pathfinder skill we got is something helpful for us here. Just because we'll be able to, get a chance to walk through here without necessarily getting poisoned and the like. Hey, more herbs. That looks hostile. I did not intend to click that. You encounter a small pack of the beasts native to the swamp. They act very differently from the ones near Fort Salawand. They barely even notice you. Experiments at Fort Salawand. The creatures there are apparently acting hostile. The creatures elsewhere in the swamp act normally and don't act hostile. Okay. No, stay. Okay, I think I have my own theories as to what we're going to be dealing with. Let me guess. They're doing some kind of experiment that is making the native beast hostile. That's gotta be it. And here's the fort itself. Well, in we go. You enter Fort Salawand. It's a large wooden structure sitting just north of a small island. The only way to the island is through the fort itself. The rumors you've heard about this place claim that it was built to protect some powerful secret. The wooden buildings do little to protect against the constant dampness. There's a slight drizzle coming down that permeates the air and anything else it encounters. The soldiers half-heartedly go about their business, desperately trying to keep dry. It's hard to imagine why the Empire would put a fort all the way out here. Unless, of course, the rumors were true. Indeed. Rumors of them doing some sort of strange experiments, or keeping some sort of hostile, dangerous artifact out here. Indeed. And actually, now that I think about it, you know what? I'll end this episode here. Yeah, the episode's going to be a bit shorter, but we're about to go into a fort and explore. So, yeah, we're not going to be able to get through the whole thing in 5 minutes, I don't think. Next episode, we'll enter Fort Salawand and find out what our quest will be. Till then, I'm Chester44, that is Fox, Sheik, Bonnie, and Draco. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play, and I shall see you all next time.